The Premier League season 2023-24 is fast approaching as it kicks off on Friday. And here on Tereak Talks, we're going to be bringing you all 20 Premier League teams and their one player to watch who will be their breakthrough star, who is underrated, that the average Premier League fan will look forward to seeing this season. And I'll give you all my predictions, my reasons why, as we break down all the teams. So people, get your coffees ready, get your evening dinners, whatever time you're watching this, ready as we enter this stream. Let's go, people. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well, and welcome back to Tereak Talks, guys. It's nearly here. Premier League football. I am very excited for its return. Friday night, Burnley versus Manchester City. They kick it off. But people, here right now, we're going to be looking at all the teams. Yes, as you can see from the thumbnail, the title, and the quick intro that I did there, we are going to be looking at every Premier League team, guys. So if you are a fan of either of these teams, or any of these teams, shall I say, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure you will enjoy this one. And if you're just a regular football fan like myself, I do support a Premier League club, but I like to think that I look at football in a non-biased way, and I'm able to look at each Premier League teams objectively and just appreciate the beautiful game that we have. That's why I'm so excited for Premier League football returning. So guys, we're going to be looking at each team as it says on the tin. The player to watch this season is kind of underrated, even within their own fan base, but by the average Premier League fan who we haven't really seen much due to their age or just their role in the squad. But I think this season they will break through. There will be a regular for their respective club and may even make a potential big move after this season. So yes, guys, we're going to be getting into it, all 20. So I hope you do enjoy it. Make sure you do smash a like on this video if you haven't done so already. It really does help support the channel. We have got a small channel, a small community, but a small community of loving people who throw banter at each other and always there to support each other as well. So I really do thank you for this community. And I've put a lot of work into this. It's taken a lot of hours, but this is what I love doing. And I'm glad that I'm able to share this content with you. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, not just about the players that I've picked, but about the layout and everything that I've done here. But before we get into it, I just want to big up everyone that is in the place here, because we've got quite a few of you tonight, and I do thank you for joining. We've got Eagle Eye Football in the building. My brother Rich saying wants to watch Marie and the 8 Kids. If you don't know about that, guys, apparently, allegedly, I've got a missus and I've got 8 kids. I can put out there that those rumors are false. Okay, don't listen to these guys at all. But I hope you're keeping well, Rich. Big up my brother Paxton in here, saying late as usual, back to the good old days. You know how it goes. You know how it is. Big up Shay in the building. Vibes in here as well. Love to see that. This brother would be late to his own wedding. Exactly. Smash the like button. Camera looking sharp, says Rich. Appreciate you, my bro. I did upgrade the studio earlier on this month, so big up last month, should I say? Yeah, so big up yourself, man. I didn't sell them for a new camera. Big up Casey. Shearer's in here as well. Long time no see, my brother. Hope you're keeping good and well, and everyone else that is watching after. I've got a banger of a stream that I'm going to be bringing you here. As you can see the thumbnail, my big head's back on the screen as you saw it at the start. Look at that. Even upgraded the production right here. The ones to watch. Let's get into it straight away. It is kind of in a zigzag, so it's not going from A to so in alphabetical order all the way down to A to W in the Premier League. I've kind of gone W to A and then, working it in that order. So I'm mixing it around a little bit so you guys can stay engaged. So yes, I'm going to get into it right now, people. Let's start off with the first club. And that is, we're going to be looking at Wolverhampton Wanderers as well. So right here, I've gone with some honourable mentions first that I'm going to bring to you. Some players that I thought, could be ones to watch this season and could have a breakthrough. But I've gone with an outstanding pick, with my pick, the player that I think, and I've put all my bets on to make a breakthrough this season. But honourable mentions first, and the first one is João Gomez, the new signing, well, relatively new signing, because I haven't actually put any new signings from this summer transfer window. But João Gomez did arrive in January from Brazil, and he had some flashes of brilliance in his time there, scoring a late winner up against Southampton. And in that time of the season, Wolves were in trouble. As we were doing the stream here tonight, they are currently in trouble, and there's rumours that Julian Lopetegui is speaking with the board to try and get a contract termination there. So, yeah, that one is not looking good for Wolves, but I'll bring you more on my thoughts and predictions in tomorrow night's stream on that. But João Gomez, I do think he will get more game time due to the turnover in midfield from Wolverhampton Wanderers, with Ruben Neves leaving, João Moutinho, those spaces opening up there. Someone who can play across all different parts of the midfield in a defensive midfield spot, be a number 6 or a number 8, and has an eye for goal. So we saw those flashes of brilliance. Another one who is much more of a 6 in his profile, and Boubacar Traore. He did arrive last summer into Wolverhampton Wanderers, but injuries hindered his season. He did have a good start. Speaking to my bro-in-law Ed, and he said that he was quite excited about that move. Someone who's a defensive destroyer, and we kind of saw that in those games where he was playing. A young player that they did sign from Angers, I do believe. He's got a unique profile to this squad. They don't really have someone of that 6 mold who is going to be a pure defensive midfielder, but he's someone to keep an eye on. And a final honourable mention is Matheus Cunha. We saw flashes again of his brilliance. A big amount of money they spent on him, 50 million euros, signed him on a loan with the obligation to buy this summer from Atletico Madrid. But he's got that versatility, and they're going to be relying on him a lot for that creativity, as they do lack creators. And we saw with Wolves last season, they didn't really score many goals last season at all. But the player that I have gone for to you guys to watch, and if you are a regular on the channel, you will know how much I rave about him, and it's this man, Hugo Bueno, the 20-year-old. As you can see his profile right there, the 20-year-old Spanish left back, who I think is going to have an outstanding season. I've really been impressed ever since I first laid eyes on him as a player, as he's someone that came in, really played a lot more games last season at the age of 18, 19, coming into the team. He was actually an attacking midfielder, converted to a left back in the academy by interim manager last season, Steve Davis. And that was, it's something that the likes of Zinchenko has done. You see that transition happen quite a lot with players. Even the great Ashley Cole was a striker in his early days as a player, and Hugo Bueno has adapted to life as a left back extremely well. Didn't play as many minutes as I thought as he would do last season, because there was a few injuries and a change in management that kind of did, hinder his playing time a little bit, and inconsistency in his form, which you kind of expect for someone of his age at that point. How many games he did play, I'm just getting up here for you right now. So he's got 21 Premier League appearances already. So he's played quite a few games for them this season, but I do believe he'll be a much more of a regular. Some of his strengths, his defensive aspects really impressed me from when I first saw him. And I actually saw him live in the flesh when I went to watch Wolves versus Arsenal, and he came up against Bukayo Saka in that occasion, and he defended really well, really held his own in that 1v1 battle, and didn't give Bukayo Saka much joy. And there's not many fullbacks that could have said that last season, with the form Bukayo Saka was in, and being one of the best right wingers you can arguably say in the world, definitely in the league, and at the young age being able to marshal him well. I was really impressed watching him there. His other strengths, his crossing, he's got a real variety to his crosses in the final third, which for a player of his age and somewhere that he's not really played often in his career, he's shown real good selection in his crosses, and I think that'll be a big threat going towards Sasa Kalajic, the big 6'8" Austrian. We didn't see much of him last season due to injury as well. But Hugo Bueno, I think, is going to be a top player for them, and providing that attacking outlet out wide as he can have that mix up in his game. I do think he has the ability to play inverted. I've seen him in the build-up play. He's press resistant in that sense, where he as being an attacking midfielder, he's used to having his back to goal and being able to find spaces and pick out his man and play those one-touch passes. His passing selection and variety is very good as well. Kind of what we've seen a lot with a lot of Spanish players over the years. So yeah, he's definitely got that in his locker. Already mentioned his ability to defend 1v1. And what makes me really believe that he can have a bright future is how comfortable he is in all three phases in possession. So the three phases in possession, you have a build up, you have progression, and then you have, the end products in the final third. And he can play across all three. Build up, I kind of mentioned how he is press resistant, progressive with his passing, as he having that ability to play inverted. He can play it through the lines into the attackers and then really work off of himself. We really work off the attackers there. But with how Wolves play and under Julian Lopetegui, that could change, of course, with Gary O'Neill coming in. He will be out wide a lot, and being able to pick out a good cross and make the right decisions a lot of the time going forward is going to be a key aspect and a key reason why I think he will do well. I'm going to give you a little prediction for him before I go into his weaknesses. I do think at the end of the season, he's going to make a big move in the summer. I do think it'll either be within the Premier League. His profile and stylistically, he really does look like an Arteta kind of fullback or a Pep Guardiola, someone of that mold. And you are seeing a lot more of the teams play with inverted fullbacks now. If Wolves do go down, if they do, because they are one of the favourites for a lot of people to be within a relegation dogfight due to their FFP issues, not being able to get new recruits, then he will garner a lot of interest still, whether they're up or down. And you see championship clubs command a big fee nowadays. So yeah, I'm sure that won't really affect Wolves in their stance. I haven't really seen his contract, so that might be another reason. But he could either play for a big Premier League team in the summer if he does go and kick on and does go on and be a regular for Wolves and really impress, which I think he has the capability to. I think you do need to keep your eyes on him, guys. Or move back to Spain and play for one of the big boys there. Barcelona, Real Madrid are always looking out for their top talents within Spain. So yeah, that's what I do think he can do in his career. Weaknesses, though, I will say he's not the best in aerial duels. He's not got great aerial duel percentage or the aerial duels that he's won. So yeah, that's not very good for him. And because of the attacking reliance on him, he does vacate a lot of space in behind. But I think that's more of a structural issue rather than Hugo Bueno himself, because he does possess a lot of energy to go up and down and play across all thirds of the pitch. So Hugo Bueno is my shout there. Now we're going to move on into my club and Arsenal, the team that I support, and the breakthrough player that I've got here. Just want to mention some honourable mentions for Arsenal. I think Emile Smith-Rowe, he's going to have a big season. There's a lot of pressure and a lot of talk about Emile Smith-Rowe this season, as he, last season he was hindered by injuries himself. He got that groin surgery, but wasn't able to break into Mikel Arteta's side, who were on the title surge. But Emile Smith-Rowe, with the amount of games that we're going to have, he's going to have much more of a reliance and much more responsibility within this Arsenal team, and playing in the new Arteta team, where we have likes of Kai Havertz in that left eight, or he can play as an Odegaard backup in the attacking midfield. And we've also seen him at his best play out wide. I think he's going to be someone to keep an eye on this season, after having a successful under-21 Euros campaign also. And my final honourable mention for Arsenal is Jakub Kiwior, someone we signed in January and had a good impact, I would say. Given the short space of time, and being as he's coming into a title challenging team in the mid-season, which was very settled, and Arteta had his strong back line, and the William Saliba and Gabriel centre-back partnership was in full effect there. I do think that we will see more of Kivior playing in at left back, as a lot of Arsenal fans would have seen in this season. If Kieran Tierney does move on, which it looks like he will, there will be much more responsibility on him, and he'll get more opportunities to play games, even in the Premier League as well, as we will need to rotate. And Arteta wants to have that unpredictability and be a manager that can set up differently for different opponents when we are coming up against someone who's going to be a top right winger. And with Kivior's athleticism, I think he'll be able to defend 1v1 in wide areas. And another thing with Kivior, he's got an excellent passer as well. But he is not the one that I've gone for my breakthrough player this season. And although he's not of a very young age, he's 28, he's a Belgian international, and it's Leandro Trossard. What a preseason this guy has had. He's been superb ever since he's pulled on an Arsenal shirt, really. Didn't get many goals last season for the Gunners, but he did contribute with a lot of assists. He made a real impact when he came into that false nine position, showing Arteta his real versatility as the positions I've got him listed out here. You've seen him play in the left wing. You've seen him play as a striker, as a false nine, and even in preseason, playing that 8 position, that Kai Havertz left centre mid role there, as we've kind of adapted that and we've gone a much more attacking there. So yeah, it does look like Leandro Trossard will have a lot of positions that he could potentially vie for in Arteta's team. With Leandro Trossard, we have seen it in his time at Brighton. He has scored goals against a lot of big teams. He's a big game player. We saw it as he made his impact against Manchester City last week, on Sunday. In fact, yeah, in a big equaliser in the last minute. With Leandro Trossard, he can score goals against them big teams, but his real strengths is his dribbling. And with his dribbling, he has that composure in the final third where he can take that extra touch if he needs to sit the defender down. He never rushes and he never panics in those situations. And I think that can be a real key asset for Arsenal, as in most teams that we'll play against, we will dominate possession and we will be in our final third a lot, in the opposition's final third, in trying to create a lot of chances. And in those tight areas, with his close control and his composure to not rush his shot, where a defender might come across and try and block. We've seen that happen a lot when Trossard plays. He will be able to make that right decision in there. I think he's got excellent vision as well in that final third, and he's got a variety in his passing selection also to play it in different. It's kind of like a 360. He can play it in so many different ways. He's got nice flicks and tricks about him. And he's very creative in that sense, and that's why he did manage to get a lot of assists in the final third. Making those right decisions is going to be important. I also do think he has a very good relationship in that link-up play with that one-touch passing with Martinelli. And because Arsenal are going to be without Jesus in the opening weeks, and we're still going to need to rotate Jesus a lot, as we do know he is prone to injury, I do think that Trossard will get a lot more minutes and will play and start a lot more games. And having that in relationship with Martinelli as he drifts out wide, Martinelli comes inside, and vice versa, it really does make Arsenal an unpredictable threat, which is the key word that Mikel Arteta has been preaching in this preseason so far. What I will say from his weaknesses, and why Arteta won't start him on the left a lot in the biggest of games, I'd say, when Martinelli's there, is that intensity with his defending. He's not a bad defender and he does stay concentrated, but Martinelli gives you that extra bit of energy, being able to go up and down, and gives you more of that pace in transition. Trossard is a very good player in transition, of course, but not as great as Martinelli. And if you want a winger like a Martinelli or a Reece Nelson to be a 1v1 problem down that wings, and it's just in terms of how Arteta wants to set up this team, I think he will go for a Martinelli or a Nelson in that sense. But we might still see Trossard playing that left midfield role or as a false nine, of course. But yeah, aerial duels, he's not a direct option, but we've got that with Havertz and Jesus, of course. So if Arteta thinks we require a striker that we need to go long a bit more, like we did against Manchester City, you won't see Leandro Trossard start there. But my prediction for him, it's not quite as I'd say he's going to come in and be a starter, first name on the team sheet, but I do think he will be at the very least, the first name to come off the bench and a real key asset, because we've seen that a lot with the top and really most successful teams, as we have come up against Manchester City and the plethora of talent that they have. You know, you've seen the likes of Riyad Mahrez come off the bench, who's now left, Phil Foden, Julian Alvarez, Gundogan, have real impacts and not necessarily be first names on the team sheet for these guys. But yeah, I think he will be the first name at least to come off the bench for us. My prediction for him is he will be Arsenal's in the top 3 goal scorers for the club in all competitions. I do think Leandro Trossard will be there, and I do think I'm going to say second, but I do think at the very least he will be in the top 3. Let me know your thoughts, guys, in the live chat or in the comments, please. I really do love to hear your thoughts on that. And I'm going to go into my next player, and this is for West Ham United, so a team that lost Declan Rice, that are struggling to make signings in the transfer window a lot so far, but are looking to sign other players as we're doing this. My honourable mentions for them, I think Divin Muamba, the youngster, the young attacker who we saw come on a few times in the Conference League for them. I think he'll have a greater responsibility as they've sold Scamacca. They haven't really bought another striker in, and they're relying on Antonio and Danny Ings, and Mikel Antonio's future is still in doubt and up in the air, but I do think he will remain. That's a little prediction that I'm making here, but I do think Divin Muamba, who is a high prospect coming out of West Ham's academy, and we have seen West Ham's academy be really successful, and they did win the FA Youth Cup up against Arsenal, battered us at the Emirates Stadium, but they do always produce good young talent, and he's the next one for them, one of their biggest prospects. I also do think Flynn Downs is going to be a good player for them, replacing Declan Rice. He'll be someone that will rotate a little bit more with Edson Alvarez, as it looks like they're going to be signing the Mexican international from Ajax. But Flynn Downs will have a greater responsibility, and he was signed, and there was a lot of interest surrounding Flynn Downs. I remember Crystal Palace were interested in him as well, but he did make that move to West Ham, who are going to be in the Europa League. So that's going to, once again, stretch their squad out a little bit more in those competitions where it's going to be of a higher demand at a higher level than the Conference League. Do you think Flynn Downs will be a key asset for them in breaking up playing, progressing? And also, another honourable mention is Lucas Paquetá. I think I didn't choose him as my first one because as the breakthrough player, because he's kind of obvious. A lot of you guys will know of him, and someone who was a big signing for them last year. And he took a while to settle, but in the latter end of the season, he made a massive impact, making that crucial assist in the final for Jarrod Bowen to score the winner. I think we're going to see the best of Lucas Paquetá in a West Ham shirt. But my player that I've gone for is a player that they signed in that window, and it is the Moroccan international, the centre-back himself, the left-footed one in Nayef Aguerd. The reason why we didn't see the best of Nayef Aguerd last season was due to injury, and he did sustain a serious injury at the beginning of last season, but there is a lot of hype surrounding this man, and he had an excellent World Cup, and he was really at his best there, and he did suffer with injuries in that as well, and he was carrying an injury, but he was a mainstay, one of the key players in Morocco's success there. And with left-footed centre-backs, there aren't many top left-footed centre-backs out there in the world, which is why Manchester City signed Josko Vardiol for so much, and Leipzig were able to command that much for the Croatian. But with Nayef Aguerd, you've got a centre-back who's stylistically, he's made for the top clubs, I believe, for the European elites. I do think he has that in his passing range, and he has that a brilliant approach and build-up play. But that's not what West Ham really do a lot under David Moyes, because he's an aerial monster in winning the balls in the air. Tough tackler, aggressive, front-footed defender, has got that athleticism as well to be able to cover those wide spaces. And I think he will score a few more goals for West Ham as well this season, who do look to score more goals through their set pieces. I think Nayef Aguerd is going to be a key man for them. And what I would say is his weaknesses is just him staying fit. Can he stay fit? And other than that, throughout his whole game, I think he's he's got a lot to be admire about his game in everything he's got. So he came with a big reputation from Stade Rennais, and I do think he will kick on this season and be a mainstay for West Ham United. My prediction for Nayef Ajourd is I do think he will attract a lot of interest from the top clubs in the Premier League. Of course, we've got Saudi Arabia that could knock on the door for him as well. And Saudi Arabia kind of throws a spanner in the works, but because he might not even be there by the end of the window. But I do think that he will be a top centre back in the Premier League. And I think he'll be a contender for player of the season. I really do. And even if if West Ham do struggle, he will be an important player for them, especially now Declan Rice has left. So Nayef Ajourd for me is my one to watch for West Ham. The next team that I've got is another claret and blue team, and that is Aston Villa. Some honourable mentions for them. Cameron Archer, who had a successful loan spell 2 seasons ago for Preston North End, and then went out on loan again due to Steven Gerrard not providing him enough game time. He went on loan in January, I believe, to Middlesbrough. Yeah, it was in January. Had a very good season there under Michael Carrick and building a wonderful relationship with Chuba Akpom. I do think that he will have a lot more responsibility this season. Unai Emery only having Ollie Watkins as their main striker, Villa have a lot of expectations around them in the league and a lot in the Europa Conference League due to Unai Emery being there. Cameron Archer is going to be a top player for them and a real goal scorer, poacher in the box. We've seen it throughout his time in the England under-21s also. Other honorable mention that I would say is Tim Urabe. I can't even pronounce his surname, but the Tim guy, he played for QPR. Let me get this for you guys. Irogue Bunham. That's it. Tim Irogue Bunham, who had a good spell in the first half of the season with QPR. He's someone that was a part of Aston Villa's FA Youth Cup winning team, a defensive midfielder, someone who's very good at dribbling and driving the ball and being adventurous from deep. I do think he will play some more games as well, coming from that Villa Academy. And yeah, he's had a good pre-season alongside, to be quite honest, and it's another one that I'm struggling to pronounce the name of, so I'm just pulling it up here, and it's Jaden Philogene. Let's just call him that because he did have the surname Bidace. But yeah, Jaden Philogene, who is a highly rated prospect coming from Aston Villa, also had a good loan spell up in Stoke. So yeah, not too far from Aston Villa. But the player that I've gone for, and it was another signing from last season, and this is Boubacar Kamara, the French international, who once again, when he came into this Aston Villa side, speaking to Aston Villa fans, he was an outstanding player and he made a real difference in a tough time under Steven Gerrard. And this was a player before he made that move to Villa, a lot of fans, and he from bigger clubs like Manchester United, there was a lot of Arsenal fans that wanted him as well. And there was credible interest from these clubs as he did arrive to Aston Villa on a free, but someone who is a destroyer who can play as a midfielder, defensive midfielder, as a 6, as an 8, maybe more of a 6 and a double pivot where you'll see him come out a little bit more. But he has main attributes in tackling and interceptions in that midfield, has a lot of energy. Also, composure on the ball. He will have a big role to play if Aston Villa are to be successful this season. Unai Emery will love this guy a lot. And as you can see, very faintly in the background, in Douglas Luiz, they did build a good partnership. But the only issue that Boubacar Kamara had was injuries. Once again, just like Nayef Ajourd, he had a great start, but injuries did stop him in the end, and we didn't really see him at his best. But he's had a good pre-season for Aston Villa so far. Age 23, had a good start to the season for Aston Villa and last year, and I do think he'll kick on. And with us, it's hard to make a prediction in terms of him, because Aston Villa, if they continue to grow with the money that they've got behind them now, I don't actually see them selling to another club out there, because they have got a lot of money. They've invested a lot, as you've seen already in this transfer window. So if they progress with Kamara, then yeah, I think he'll stay even. But my prediction that I'm going to make for Kamara is, I think he'll start for France in the Euros. We have got the Euros coming up this year, and France have a plethora of talent in their midfield. But I think he'll be a key player for Didier Deschamps, and he will be in that Euros team. I think he'll starting's a big shout, but he'll definitely be in the squad. That's a big shout, I'd say. But I think he does have the ability to start for France in that defensive midfield position. Let me know if you think I'm right or wrong. As Aston Villa, I've given Boubacar Kamara as my breakthrough player. Not really for Aston Villa fans, but this is meant once again for the average Premier League fan who didn't really get to see the best of him last season. Yes, I'm now going over to them. So that side in North London, we have a lot of Arsenal fans here. Please don't go away. But yes, we are going to be talking about Tottenham Hotspur, some honourable mentions for them. I do think that my opinion, Yves Bissouma is going to be a top player for them. Although I didn't think he was the right fit for Arsenal. Now Arteta's trying to build his Arsenal team. I think under Ange Postecoglou, where they are looking to be much more of a progressive and attacking team and really cause opposition teams problems going more forward and not just be so transition reliant, which that's where Yves Bissouma isn't at his best part of his game for me. Defensively, yes, but going forward, he's not a brilliant progressive passer. He's a brilliant progressive dribbler with the ball, but an excellent destroyer. And I think him helping them in those defensive transitions will help a lot, as they will commit a lot of players going forward. Yves Bissouma taking on that number 8 shirt will be given a lot more responsibility. I think he will have a good year. But my player that I think he will do well for Spurs, and you guys are going to be thinking I'm cheating by saying this, he wasn't a signing this summer. He was signed last summer, but was sent back on loan to Udinese. If you don't know who that is, it's Destiny Udogie, the young 20-year-old Italian international who will be playing left back and will be that left wing back or left midfielder at times, depending on how Ange wants to set his team out for Tottenham Hotspur. And this is a big shout as well, I'd say. It's quite brave of me because they do have quite a few left backs at the moment. Tottenham do. You know, they've got the likes of Ivan Perisic that can play there. Ryan Sessegnon is also there. Sergio Reguilon hasn't been moved as well. So there is a number of them, and there's 4, including Destiny Udogie. But I do think with his profile, how attacking he is, it's really going to be the perfect match for Ange Postecoglou. Spurs have struggled at left back in recent years. I do think Ivan Perisic was underwhelming for them last season, especially when they moved to a 4 at the back formation. We saw them play with a Pedro Porro and Ivan Perisic against Newcastle, and they got absolutely smashed in those first 20 minutes. It was, 5-0? Because Ivan Perisic isn't a left back. He's much more of a left wing back. With Destiny Udogie, at the young age that he is, he has played left wing back a lot in his time in Udinese, and he was heavily reliant on him being the carrying that attacking force. He will bring a lot of pace, directness. He's very direct in how he runs and at players, and will be a problem going in behind from deep in that left back position. He's an aggressive front-footed player as well. When he is defending, you will see a lot of energy, a lot of runs, even inverted from those wide positions, making those runs in behind from deep. I do think he will cause a lot of problems as well. A young player with a really high ceiling. He has performed extremely well for Udinese, Destiny Udogie, and he's someone that Ange Postecoglou is going to love. And it's a perfect match. I really do believe that. Even when I look at his statistics in his time with the Udinese and that side, he can represent Nigeria as well. He made 74 appearances in Serie A, scoring 8 goals and getting 7 assists, which is quite high for a left back and someone who will be playing left back at that time. So I think he will be an attacking threat for them. And him and Pedro Porro, yeah, they're going to be quite strong in those fullback positions. I do think Spurs will, and I do think he's the superior one to Pedro Porro. So I've gone with Destiny Udogie for Spurs. The next team I'm going to go for, AFC Bournemouth, who are going to be an interesting side. I am a massive fan of Iraola. I'll give you my predictions on Bournemouth tomorrow, so I'm not going to go too much into that. Some honourable mentions. I think Dom Solanke's going to have a big season for them, being their target man, being a great player. He's got an all-round game that is quite solid, in fact. We really did see a big year from him last season. Was their main striker after Kiefer Moore starting a lot of games, but Dominic Solanke's kind of been a Premier League meme up until last season. He played for Liverpool, played for Chelsea, didn't really score many goals, didn't score too many for Bournemouth last season, but was a real handful and caused a lot of defensive trouble. I remember my defense in that game where we beat him by 3-2. He was a problem, Dominic Solanke. Another one is Zabayani from the Ukrainian centre-back. I think he'll have a big season. Didn't really play too many games, once again, due to injury, and coming in mid-season, it's quite hard to come in and adapt in the Premier League when you are in a relegation dogfight. But I do think under Iraola, being an athletic centre-back, a more progressive one, modern day, he will be able, and someone who's able to defend in a higher line, which Iraola will play if in his time, which we have seen at Real Vallecano. I do think he'll have much more roles and a bigger responsibility there. But the player that I've gone for to be a breakout player, and I've got real faith in this guy after what I saw last season, is Dango Ouattara, the 21-year-old Burkina Faso international, who is a real threat. Direct runner, has got a lot of pace about him. But what I would say his biggest aspect is his ability to use both feet. He's a real tricky customer. You'll see he likes a nutmeg. He was an excellent performer against Arsenal as well. And in the following game, I do believe they played, which was against Liverpool, when they did win by 1-0 at the Vitality Stadium. He came in January and made a massive impact from Lorient. And he came from a Lorient team that was very progressive, very modern, and scored a lot of goals as well in League. And he adapted extremely well for his young age. I think he could be a big problem to deal with in the Premier League. He's not right-footed. He is left-footed. I need to correct that. He is left-footed indeed, Dango Ouattara. Someone who has got that ability to use his right foot as well, add that unpredictability. So yeah, he's massive right there for Bournemouth, and I do think he'll have a big season under Iraola, a more attacking responsibility than even he had under Gary O'Neill. Yeah, I think he'll have a big season. And my prediction for Dango Ouattara is I think he will score 10 or plus goals. And that's quite big because he's someone who has played as a false nine. I haven't added him as that position there. But yeah, I think he'll make a lot of runs in behind, working off the likes of Dominic Solanke. I think he'll have a big season and he'll score 10 plus goals. We don't really see too many players do that, but Dango Ouattara is a top player for me. And that is my prediction for him there. The next team that I'm going to go for is Sheffield United. It's quite hard for them because they are losing a lot of players. I did struggle to come with an honourable mention, but I'm going to basically go into it right now and give you my player one to watch is Anel Ahmed Hodzic. Ahmed Hodzic, who I've seen him a couple of times playing in the Championship last season. He is a centre-back, but in his Sheffield United side, he has an interesting role where he progresses the ball a lot with runs. He makes a lot of runs from deep. He's 6'5" as well, might I add. And he's very quick and he's very direct in terms of his running from deep. We saw when Sheffield United were last in the Premier League, they were quite unique in how they use their centre-backs as overlapping centre-backs under Chris Wilder. They do continue with that 3 at the back with wing-backs, so which turns into a 5 a lot of the time. But with Anel Ahmed Hodzic, I think he'll have a big season for them. And if they are to stay up, and I'll let you know if I think they will tomorrow, he's going to be a key player in that back line, even not just from a defensive standpoint, but from an attacking one as well. 6'5", can score goals, a very eccentric centre-back who's not afraid to carry that ball out of the back and invading pressure in that high press. I do think he will catch a lot of eyes this season. The young 24-year-old Bosnia and Herzegovina international, big player as well, stands out at 6'5". They are going to need that height after losing Sander Berge. And my prediction from this season is he will be a Premier League player next season as well. I do think he will make that move, even if Sheffield United stay up or go down, whichever happens. I think he's going to be someone that a bigger club. I'm not going to predict and say a top 6 club, but another Premier League club in that middle of the table potentially. Do you know what? Potentially a Brighton would like this type of player, and I think he will do perform well. I think he's going to be a big player, and I think he'll make a move to a middling club like a Brighton. Hold that. Imagine if that happens, guys. You'll be the first ones to be able to see that and call it from here. But Ahmed Hodzic, I think, is going to be a big player for Sheffield United this season. Now we're going to go to another team that wears red and white, and that is Brentford, the Bees. I do have some. I've done these shows last year. You guys, you know what? I'm going to go into it. Let me show the one that I've got on screen. I'm laughing because I've said it ever since I started this channel. This has been my breakthrough player, and this is the 3rd year in a row who I'm going to say is my breakthrough player. And I'll be quite honest, I'm doing this out of stubbornness and how much I really do like this player. Former Arsenal Academy player in Josh Da Silva. Let me give you my honourable mentions first for Brentford, because I do have a few for them. Keane Lewis Potter, who was brought in last summer, but didn't really play many games under Thomas Frank, but he's had a fantastic preseason. I've been listening to a lot of Brentford fans online, and they've been saying that he's been outstanding and they expect his role to increase. He was a player with a lot of potential coming from Hull City. He had a really good time in League One for Hull City at that point. But he's going to have a big role and responsibility coming in for Brentford this year. But I think it's going to be Josh Da Silva. Injuries have stopped this man once again. I remember in their second game of the season, he scored against Manchester United in that 4-0 victory. Sorry, Man United fans. But he has shown a lot of promise. He scored a big equaliser against Leicester as well, but he's just not really been able to stay fit in his time there. And I do think he's a risk for me going from 3 years in a row. A midfielder that I would say is similar to a Mateo Kovacic in that sense, who likes to dribble, can play out wide, can play under the press and evade that press with his dribbling and technical ability. Does catch the eye because he's got a flair. He's got a nice bit of flair to his game. Someone, we don't really see many English midfielders that are able to do that. He plays very well in the build-up and in that progression phase. In the final third, I think he can work on his end products a little bit more. That's not his greatest aspect, but a left-footed midfielder under Thomas Frank, who, without Ivan Toney, there's going to be a lot more reliance on the team to contribute with goals and assists and really make a big difference there. And I think Josh Da Silva will take up that responsibility well and will be an important player for them. My prediction for Josh Da Silva, I really want to go out there and really go on a limb for this man, but I don't think he will play for England. But I think he will have such a good season that people will be talking about him and saying maybe he could be a player that we could take in the Euros. Maybe he's an option for England. But I just think my prediction, I think he will stay fit. That's what I'm going to go for. He's going to stay fit for them. He's going to be a key player and helping Brentford be a solid Premier League team in here. So yeah, Josh Da Silva is my player. Guys, you know how much I love this man. So yeah, and I really do like him as a player stylistically. And I think, yeah, he will remain at Brentford next season as well. The next team that I've gone for, another team wearing red, is Nottingham Forest. I know you can't quite see it here on this screen, but yeah, Nottingham Forest, who are going to have an interesting season. Some honourable mentions, and not because, this honourable mention in Morgan Gibbs White, it's not because, I don't think he will have a breakthrough year. I think it's mainly because he had a very good season from last season, and he did break through after signing from Wolverhampton Wanderers with a big, hefty price tag right there. Also, some other honourable mentions. I do think that the left back in Omar Richards, who missed a lot of the season due to injury, who signed from Bayern Munich, didn't play any games. It was Renan Lodi was ahead of him, and then even Harry Toffolo at that point. I think he will be a key player for them going forward and defensively as well. But the player that I've gone for Nottingham Forest 4-4 is Danilo, the Brazilian who came in January. So once again, not a new summer signing. He was linked to Arsenal, and someone that I've done a lot of researching because he was linked to Arsenal last summer as we were looking for someone to replace Thomas Partey. He was injured and he got an injury towards the end of August. And there was a lot of links with Danilo. And there's been a long-term interest with Danilo, with Edu apparently being a fan. The young Brazilian man in midfield who stylistically, I would say he's a lot like Fred. Fred for Man United, who looks like he will make that move. A lot of energy in that midfield. A tough tackler, has a lot of tenacity in there. Left-footed as well, around 5'9" in height, so that's an easy comparison to make. But he will be a key player for Nottingham Forest in all three phases of the game. Defensively, in being a tough tackler and helping them have that energy to go out wide and defending those wide areas. We've seen him play left mid. I forgot to put that position on there, and make those late runs into the box as well. So he's much more of an 8 in midfield. You can see him play as a 6 in a double pivot, I would say, because of his style. Someone that's like that, and yeah, I think he will. He scored it. You know what's really surprised me with Danilo? He scored a few goals for them, and I think if he can do that and continue that rate, he will be a massive player for Forest, as they're going to be looking to stay in the league this season. So Danilo, my prediction for him is I think he'll make a move from Nottingham Forest and take that step up. Once again, is it into a top 6 club or a club around that level? I think he'll actually make a Premier League out of the Premier League move and go into one of the top teams in Europe and be a player for them, and not necessarily a starter, but a squad player in and around there. I do think he will make that move after Forest into a top team and someone who is going to be a key player for them. And of course, Brennan Johnson. But yeah, these aren't really breakthrough players because they're players that were quite big for Forest and that last season. Speaking about one of the big, the team that really achieve above expectation in Brighton and Hove Albion. I haven't put Evan Ferguson in here because I think last season was his breakthrough season. You know, when you got a player that's been linked to the likes of Manchester United, top clubs like that, and Manchester United will keep their eyes on him. A lot of Arsenal fans love him, including me. If I was going to sign a striker next summer, which I think that will be Arsenal's priority, I would certainly look at Evan Ferguson. So he's not going to be one for me as a breakthrough player. They've got other players that could potentially go in there, like a Facundo Buonanotte, and he was signed in January from Argentina. And he kind of came in a little bit towards the end, coming off that right, a real creative, technical midfielder in there. I think he will have an improved role this season. Whatever happens to a Moises Caicedo, he's more of an attacking midfielder, though, so you won't see him come and replace there. If Facundo Buonanotte, I think he's a very talented prospect, but I just don't think he will get the minutes, and not as many minutes as this man in Julio Enciso. The reason why I wouldn't put him as a breakthrough player from last season is he's not really been linked with a lot of top clubs. But what we saw of him is really towards the end of the season when he really made his breakthrough. The 19-year-old Paraguayan international, what a player he is. I saw him play against Arsenal. He was outstanding. He was up there with Mitoma and Evan Ferguson for one of the players of the game in there. He's got that versatility along the front line that Roberto De Zerbi loves, as you can see on the screen. He can play as a left midfielder, a right midfielder, but importantly, in that kind of 10 role, which I think he will take over from Alexis McAllister. So when he's got that direct running about him, a brilliant shot from outside the box. He's got a clean connection with the ball. What a goal he scored against Manchester City towards the end of the season. It was in this picture that I've got here was that celebration. Someone that's got that real South American pizzazz, as I like to call it, in and around the final third, presses really well, has that tenacity, has that fearlessness and freedom when playing, when he's running, when he's directness, it will have an improved role for them. And I think this season is going to be a massive year for Julio NC. So my prediction for him is I think he will make a big move. And do you know what? Whether he makes a big move or not, because Brighton are hard and real stern sellers, I think he'll be on the list of a lot of top league players, a lot of top clubs, in and around the Premier League and in and around Europe. I think he will really have a breakout season. I'm talking about 10 plus goals in all competitions. Another one I've gone with 10 plus. I think Julio Enciso will be top player. Have a look in your FPLs. Guys, I'll speak to you more about that at the end of the video as well. Julio Enciso, a real good player, and someone I've been very impressed with and have a lot more game time this season. What a player he is at the age of 19. Brighton just keep turning over these top players indeed. And if Mohamed Kudus doesn't go there, his role will be even bigger. But even if Kudus is there, because of his versatility, I can see him playing a lot of games for the Seagulls. The next team that I've gone for is Newcastle United. Some honourable mentions for them there is Anthony Gordon. I think he will impress a lot more after coming the back of a good European Championships for the under-21s. He actually got player of the tournament in the whole competition, which I don't agree with, but I did think he was a very good threat going forward. He was playing as like England played in a 4-4-2 formation, and he played as one of the strikers, but he was like, they didn't really play with a recognised striker. He peeled off the left a lot and out on the right. Anthony Gordon, I think, once he settles in with this Newcastle team and really finds his role, now that St. Maximin has left and Harvey Barnes is there, I think he will have a lot more responsibility out on that right, I would say, because Harvey Barnes will play a lot off the left. Him and Almiron will really compete for that position. But the player that I've gone for, and this is mainly based off of research, listening to a lot of Newcastle fans, because I haven't actually seen too much of this lad. But Elliot Anderson is one of the few players in recent years that has come out with a lot of praise and a lot of potential coming from that Newcastle academy. They've not produced many, and Newcastle fans have spoken about their academy as not being good enough for a club of their size and being in the area of the country that they are and the biggest club in that area. They should really be hoovering a lot of that talent and creating a lot of top players in their academy. But that's one of the things that the owners are trying to work on at the club. The Saudi Arabians right there. But Elliot Anderson, I think he's going to have a big season with Newcastle being in the Champions League and going to be looking to try and win a trophy. They did make the Carabao Cup final last year up against Man United, but did lose by 2-0. Of course, Man United fans let us know about that. But Elliot Anderson, a local lad, with the way that Eddie Howe is building this team, he does play a lot of the English players, a lot of the players that understand and know the club, like Dan Burn, of course. I think Elliot Anderson will have an improved role, someone who can play in midfield, has a lot of energy from what I've seen, and when I was doing my research, has an eye for goal as well, not afraid to make a dribble. It's quite a brave midfielder in that sense. In Elliot Anderson, I'm just having a look to see what else he's done in the academy as we're speaking, to be quite honest, as well. But Elliot Anderson does possess a lot of those skills in there, and I think he will have a big season, just mainly based off of, I'm being honest, of what the letter of the Newcastle fan said with him, because he's key. He's got great dribbling, as I said earlier on. His passing's quite good, according to a lot of Newcastle fans. I'm just looking at my notes there. So yeah, it will be interesting to see him this season. I won't lie, I did struggle looking for a player for Newcastle, because with Eddie Howe, he likes to work with a small squad. We've seen the likes of Tonali come in. Longstaff I'd say, their breakout player from last season. Joe Willett potentially could be one of them, but Elliot Anderson, a lot of buzz around him from the Geordie, so it'll be interesting there. So the next club that we've gone for is just a bit further south, but we're still in the north of the country, is Burnley, and they are going to be an interesting side to watch, who have got a lot of buzz around them as well, with obviously Vincent Kompany being the manager, changing Burnley's style from ever since they set foot in the Premier League under Owen Coyle Um, they were very much a Route 1 team, played it in the old-fashioned way. And then Sean Dyche came in and really developed, kind of built upon that. And with the 4-4-2, your Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood, Jack Cork in the middle, who's still there and still a key player for them. But they are much more of a progressive team that presses a lot more, that plays out of the back. And in their build-up playing are not as direct and will be more possession-based and will be more of an interesting team to watch in that sense. But I've got a few honourable mentions for them. I do think, because I can't mention new signings, but I did do a lot of research into Zeki Amdouni. This is a striker that they did sign from Basel. Wow. He will catch your eye. And I think when we do that watch along on Friday night, you guys will love him, by the way. He will be one of them, because it's a Friday night game, Premier League showcase. A lot of people will be looking at him. Trafford, of course, what a goalkeeper he was in the Euros. I've just seen Moss say that, actually. I haven't been keeping an eye on the comments too much, so sorry about that, guys. I will get into them afterwards. Well, yes, James Trafford, big signing from Manchester City, a big prospect as from England goalkeeper, but I can't go with any new signings there. But the player that I have gone for to be the one to watch for Burnley is Anas Zarouri, and it's another Moroccan. Got another Moroccan in here. But when I was watching Burnley and how they play and how they progress with this last season in the Championship, when they had the likes of Maatsen from Chelsea. Not to spoil it, but he's an honourable mention for Chelsea. He had a real brilliant connection out there on that left wing, Anas Zarouri, a player with a lot of trickery. We've seen a lot of these Moroccan players over the years, your Hakim Ziyech's, your Adel Taraps. He does possess the technical ability, the skill of those there. Another one, a bit like Dango Ouattara, who's very capable of using both feet in those wide areas. So has that unpredictability in his dribbling and skill. And when he does cut in inside, he's not going to be predictable in the fact that he's going to make a cross or go for a shot. He can take you on the outside. And we don't really see many wingers like that built nowadays, who do have the ability to go both ways. And it is a real key asset and a real threat up against opposition fullbacks when you do have the ability to go on either side. So Anas Zarouri definitely has that in his locker. Someone who has a good eye for a pass too, with his through balls in the final third. I'd probably say that's even his biggest threat. He's a creative winger, someone who likes to dribble, who likes to go across. If you guys, I will if you've seen his goal, if you haven't, do check it out. The cross that he made for Ashley Barnes against Blackburn, and that is a key rivalry for Burnley. It was out of this world on his weaker left foot. So someone who's got that ability in the 1v1s. One of his weaknesses, I'd say, is he's not the best at tracking back, and that will probably prevent him from making a big move to like the likes of Arsenal, Manchester City, as everyone's expected to defend. But he does, if you give him the freedom, he will be a real offensive outlet for the Clarets. And my prediction for him is he will be their biggest and their most. He will get Burnley's most assists this season. That's what I was trying to say. I was going to say their biggest goal contributor. And do you know what? I'm quite confident in saying that. With goals and assists combined, I think he'll get the most for Burnley. He'll chip in with a few goals. He's got a good free kick on him as well. Don't forget about that. That's another thing I forgot to add. But yeah, someone who will get the most assists for Burnley, which will put him up there as the biggest goal contributor. So keep an eye on Anas Zarouri, who is a direct, pacey winger with a lot of skill and technical ability. Now we're going into the big ones. Guys, make sure you smash a like on this video if you haven't done so already, as I have put a lot of work and a lot of effort into this. If you are enjoying it, let me know in the comments. I really do appreciate all of you that are watching here. And the one that I've got here is Manchester United. There are a few honourable mentions for Manchester United this season. Alvaro Fernandez, someone who was out on loan in Preston. What I think he's going to be a big player for Man United in the future. The only reason I haven't put him as the key man is I just don't think he'll be there by the end of the window. But he's had a very good preseason. He's got a lot of United fans talking. A left back who's 6'2", by the way, has that ability once again, like a Hugo Bueno, to play inverted. But I think he will make that move. Burnley, the last club that we spoke about, were touted to be interested in him as they do look for a replacement for Maatsen. So maybe if I did this a little bit later, he'd be one of my honourable mentions as well. But now, big player is Alvaro Fernandez, and I do think he'll have a bright future. And if I was to give a little prediction on him, I think he'll be the backup to Shaw next season. But yeah, whilst they've got Tyrone Malacia and Brandon Williams there, I don't think he'll be there, and he needs that game time. And another honourable mention for Manchester United is Amad Diallo as well. I do think this is where I haven't put him as the main one because I can't guarantee that he will be there. Is Amad Diallo came off of a really successful loan spell at Sunderland, scoring a lot of goals, grabbing a lot of assists for the Mackens. But yeah, Amad Diallo, I think he'll be a top player, but I'm not quite sure if he'll be there for the whole season. I can see Red Devil Yannick is just coming here and said Facundo Palestri. Yes, Tereak Ten Hag does really like him a lot, and there are rumours about him signing a new contract. So that's a good shout right there. But my player that I think will have a breakout, you can kind of see him in the thumbnail, but you might not be able to make him out. And it's the man that's on every Man United fan's lips from preseason is Kobbie Mainoo. Guys, I watched this kid up against Arsenal in the under-21s. I was keeping an eye. The reason I tuned into Manchester United Arsenal in last season in the 21s was to look at Ethan Nwaneri after he made his debut, of course, for Arsenal. So I was like, you know what, let me watch this kid. And I saw Miles Lewis-Skelly. I was very impressed. That was the first time I saw him as well. But the one who took my breath away was Kobbie Mainoo. This player is outstanding, and I think he's the next up in that Man United academy. Someone who can play in a variety of positions and in all areas of the pitch. I spoke about Hugo Bueno being a player that can play in all three phases. This guy can play in all three phases and really well and excel in attacking, in transition, and in defensive phases. Why has the ability to be an 8, a 6, and even a 10. The only issue is, as Red Devil Yannick's put in the chat, is that Mainoo has got an injury, as a serious injury, which puts him out for 2 months. But by the end of the season, Kobbie Mainoo will be he will be the young player of the season for Manchester United. I'm more than confident in saying that. As long as he can stay injury-free. How we played against Arsenal under Arsenal's press, which wasn't the best and it wasn't the most cohesive from the Gunners, but he was a massive part in the 2 goals that Man United scored, playing in this transition style against the likes of Arsenal, and I think how he will perform against Manchester City and Liverpool and whatnot. He's going to be the perfect midfielder, and he will play a lot of big games. Don't you worry about that. He was training with Manchester United's first team for about 3/4 of last season for them. So Erik Ten Hag certainly sees his potential, wanted him to train, wanted him to get used to being a part of this group, and was really slow cooking him for this season. There's a lot of expectation and a lot of promise surrounding this young lad, as long as he can stay injury-free. My prediction for this kid this season is I think he will be a starter next to Casemiro by the end of it. And that's even if you get a Sofian Amrabat. I'm saying it by the end of the season, he will start for Manchester United. And that is big. 18 at that young age for a big Manchester United. But the temperament that I've seen from Kobbie Mainoo as well is out of this world, and it's like Saka in that sense. Because Saka, when he came into Arsenal, he there wasn't really too much hype surrounding him a lot of that time. But when he came in, you saw his temperament. You saw that he was making the right decisions, not getting not getting phased for playing for such a big club in a struggling time. But Kobbie Mainoo has all the tools defensively, in and out of possession, a great ball progressor, has a lot of energy, winning the ball back, strong tackler, has that Manchester United DNA, I would say. Kobbie Mainoo, what a midfielder this guy has. He's got all the tools to succeed, and I don't really actually see a weakness in his game. I was writing these notes, and I don't see a weakness in his game. The only thing that you'd say is a weakness is his inexperience. That is all I'd say. But as an outside of that, top player, Kobbie Mainoo, and I do think he will be a starter for Manchester United by the end of the season. Bold shout, I know, because they have got a lot of players in there, and they will have, and it looks like they will get a Sofian Amrabat. But what a player I do think he is. There's a lot of praise right there for Kobbie Mainoo. Now for Chelsea, they were an interesting one because they are a very young team and they've got a lot of inexperienced players in their squad, of course. And I do think that makes for interesting read. And they have a lot of players that could break through into that club this season. Some of the honourable mentions that I have is new signing, and well, he wasn't a new signing, so he was actually eligible in Andre Santos. The only reason I haven't gone for him is because I just don't think I think that they will sign a Caicedo eventually, and his role will drop down a little bit more, and I don't think he'll play as many games. It's as you know, to be a breakthrough, to be eligible to be a breakthrough, in my opinion. Lewis Hall, who is going to be looking like he's making his move to Crystal Palace. But when I spoke about Hugo Bueno as a top left back, a top player that moved from midfield and become a defender in his early part of his career, Lewis Hall has all of those tools to be a top inverted left back for an Arsenal, for a Manchester City. If he was at Arsenal, if he was at Manchester City, I promise you he wouldn't be going out on loan. That's for sure. So Chelsea, the only reason I do think he's going out on loan is because they've got the likes of Maatsen, they've got Chilwell there, and the biggest reason why is of Cucurella. They're not going to be able to get rid of him this season. So yeah, Cucurella is really holding that position back. And another one that you could say is a breakthrough, but I think it would be a bit more obvious again, is a Mykhailo Mudryk. I do expect him to have a much better season this year. I've seen Red Devil Yannick say Levi Colwill, and Moss say, Mr. Jackson. There, I'm not gone with any new signings. And Colwill, very good shout. I think, I could have went with him, but I've gone with another player, yeah, and I have gone with Carney Chukwuemeka. So this was someone that was signed last season, and he was signed from Aston Villa for the Blues. But I think he will have a big season for them, especially within the first 2 months. It's downstairs. Sorry, guys. But especially within the first 2 months without a Christopher Nkunku, his role will be a lot more and will be a lot more increased. Look at his versatility in the positions that he's played: attacking midfield, left midfield, right midfield, centre midfield. And the reason why I put those left and right midfield positions is because with a Pochettino side, we saw it under his time at Spurs, is he doesn't play with wingers a lot that like to hold a lot of width. He likes to have left midfielders, a three in behind the striker that are quite fluid. We saw Eriksen play a lot on the left for Spurs out there. We've seen the likes of Lamela and whatnot and play out on the right, and not really have many players that hold a lot of width and like to interchange a bit more. And Carney Chukwuemeka has that perfect profile, a young player with a lot of dribbling ability, a lot of goal scoring and assisting threat in and behind, good composure. And when I spoke about Alejandro Trossard in that final third, Carney Chukwuemeka has that. So when he can progress the ball with his dribbling, with his passing, being able to play off both feet, having that threat to go left and right in there. Someone who I'd liken to as a Loftus-Cheek without the injuries. Loftus-Cheek without the injuries is Carney Chukwuemeka, 6'2", agile, creative midfielder, likes to have those one-touch passing, that link up. I think he'll be a perfect player for Chelsea's and Mauricio Pochettino's Chelsea at that. Big amount of money they spent on him, and with Nkunku's injury, his role will increase a lot. That's a big reason why I've gone for him to be the breakthrough player. Let me know your thoughts, Chelsea guys, Chelsea fans or non-Chelsea fans, because there's a lot of suggestions. We've had, Mr. Nicholas Jackson, Levi Colwill, Mudrick from Westbird as well. Muddy Rick said, I think he will shine this season. But I've gone with Carney Chukwuemeka for the Blues. The next team, and we are City. We got into the big boys, and in Manchester City, honourable mention in particular for Manchester City is Rico Lewis. I think he will have an increased role as Manchester City's squad depth as it's lightened. The sales of Gundogan and Mahrez. It looks like Kyle Walker will stay now, so that's why I haven't gone with Rico Lewis. If Kyle Walker was to make the move, I would have gone for him because I think his role would have increased. And we saw him break through a bit last season. He played not a big part in that middle part of the season, in that December, January, after the World Cup, up until about February. He played quite a lot of games and he was relied upon by Pep Guardiola, being that inverted fullback. And you heard Pep Guardiola say it as well. There's not many players out there in the world that can do that. I did mention Bueno and Lewis Hall as having the potential to. But when those clubs might not want to play with an inverted wing back, so you might not even see it. But someone that has that ability, that comfortable, that understanding of what positions to take, when to come inside, when to not, when to stay outside, and when to maintain that width. It takes a lot of a lot of maturity and a high football IQ, and Rico Lewis certainly has that, as well as the molding of that Manchester City academy as well. But the player I've gone through for is Julian Alvarez, and yes, he's a lot of promise, and it's hard to call a World Cup winner, treble winner, and striker as a breakthrough player. But because he didn't really play too many minutes last year, with Haaland being the main man, of course, and having the likes of De Bruyne and Mahrez and Gundogan playing a lot of minutes, I think Alvarez's role will increase. And I do think that you will see him play as a second striker. The positions I've got him listed here as a striker, I could have put a centre forward in there, like a false nine, an attacking midfielder, and a left and right winger as well, which he has played a lot in his time at River Plate. But I do think, Pep Guardiola started him up with Erling Haaland. I think you'll see that a lot this season with Alvarez. He'll play up there a lot, as I think Kevin De Bruyne's role will decrease and his minutes will decrease. And it's only due to his injury issues and his body not allowing him to. But Julian Alvarez is going to have a big season. And I know I've missed a few predictions with the last players. But yeah, Carney Chukwuemeka prediction, I'm just going to say this now, is I think Carney Chukwuemeka, he will get 10 plus goal contributions in all competitions for them. So I think that's going to be quite big for them there. So Julian Alvarez, and my prediction for Julian Alvarez, 10 goals minimum in the Premier League. Minimum of 10 goals. Do you know what? I'm going to put my neck out there. I'm going to say Julian Alvarez gets 15 Premier League goals for Manchester season. Minimum of 15. Let me know. Do you back my shout there, guys? Do you back it? Let's see what you're saying. And the next team, there you go, Rich. Crystal Palace aren't going to be last. They're not. They are next. And there's a few players I'd also say for Crystal Palace who I've gone with in terms of the honourable mentions. I think that, I mean, last year I did go with Nathan Ferguson as the breakthrough player for Palace, but we just with his unfortunate career, I was very impressed with him in his time at West Brom, but he's just not been able to get fit at all. And I'm not going to do the Josh De Silva with him and just back him to stay fit. But this year, there was a few that you could go for. I think Hamada is a good player that they brought in under Vieira. There was a lot of promise in there, and someone that can come in and be an attacking midfielder threat. But the reason why I haven't gone with him is because the bosses still do have Roy Hodgson at the helm. It's hard to really see him get too many first team minutes, especially in the area of the pitch where Eberechi Eze is going to be playing a lot of games for them. He's going to be their key man, the player that they're going to build the team around. Richard said right there, Jefferson Lerma for me. He's going to be a big player in that midfield. Him, partnering Chet Decore in that midfield. Jefferson Lerma, they've lacked that. Chet Decore has been their only player to be that breakup player in that midfield. But yeah, Jefferson Lerma, good shout from you there, Rich. Of course, another one is Jez Raksaki, who had a very good loan spell at Charlton last year. The only reason I haven't gone with him is with this direct winger who, we've seen the Crystal Palace DNA of creating a lot of wide players who are direct, who have that ability to score goals and have that trickery. I'm not sure if he'll go out on loan or if Crystal Palace might look to make a sale on him, is with Jez Raksaki. So that's why I haven't gone for him. But Rich, this is where me and you, we work together in tandem, because you've gone with Jefferson Lerma. And my reason for picking Chet Decore to be a breakthrough player was actually because of the freedom that Jefferson Lerma will give him. Chet Decore, who I think was outstanding and one of Palace's best players last season in a majority of the season underwhelming, but ended quite strong. Chet Decore was one of their most important players. But I think the addition of Jefferson Lerma will free up Chet Decore even more. This is a midfielder that plays as a 6. You've seen a lot of the time, can read the game well, and intercept the ball in and defend and really be a defensive stalwart for Crystal Palace. But don't just think him as a destroyer. He's someone that can play the ball through with his progressive passing. He had a very good progressive passing stats for Lens before he made that move to Crystal Palace. One of the best in Europe. And that was and that's massive for a player of his age. He arrived at Palace at 22. But Chet Decore has a high ceiling. Liverpool were interested in him, and Palace said no, 70 million, bang. I think by the end of this season, Chet Decore, if the Palace do sell him, they'll try and command 100 million. I do think that and that's crazy to say, but when the likes of Caicedo are being asked for 100 million, I think Chet Decore has a similar profile to a Moises Caicedo. In fact, someone who Arsenal have been interested in a lot before he made that move to Palace. Someone who's what I think as an Arteta and a Pep Guardiola number 6, and even a Liverpool in Jurgen Klopp's number 6, Manchester United potentially. He's someone of that profile, not just a destroyer, a very good passer, calm and collected under pressure, has that ability to make the turn, has that bit of a Partey shimmy. I would say if I'm going to pick a player that's likened to him, I'm going to say it's Thomas Partey, someone who can play as a DM, but also can play a bit more progressive and further up the pitch and play him across all the way through them parts of the midfield. And as Rich says here, thank you, T. Decore gets disrespected in these chats. He pocketed Rice. Yeah, he had a very good game against Declan Rice. He's outstanding, man. Chet Decore, and someone I really rate highly, Rich. And those who disrespect him just don't understand the game like that, man. I've just got to say it. I've just got to be real. And Jefferson Lerma, the one who you picked, he will free him up a bit more. Jefferson Lerma, who is much more of just a destroyer, doesn't have the variety in his game that a Chet Decore has. But that midfield base under a Roy Hodgson, oh my word, that will be a tough midfield to break down with the physicality that possesses, the energy and quality in possession, and Chet Decore certainly has that. Decore class, says Wes Bird, indeed. And he was linked with Arsenal last summer before he made that move to Palace. Not strongly, but I'm sure Arsenal do hold an interest, and Palace could command a big fee for the Malian. So the next team that I'm going to go for is Luton Town. I am not going to lie, I struggled with this one because I hadn't watched Luton Town a lot last season. Because when they entered the season, the manager was Nathan Jones, and Nathan Jones plays a very direct kind of way. Well, when I say direct, not really necessarily in the long ball, but forward passes straight away. It was possession based, but they had a very distinct style. And yeah, Luton Town weren't one of the favourites to come up, so I didn't really watch a lot of them. So not as much as I watched the likes of Burnley, saw a few Sheffield United games because they were in and around with West Brom, and I've got to keep an eye on West Brom. Yeah, sorry, don't tell the Wolves fans that. But yeah, Luton Town, I did struggle a little bit, I won't lie. And there was a few honourable mentions that I went for. Elijah Adebayo, who is a striker that used to play for Walsall. The only reason I know a bit about him is because I had him on Football Manager for Walsall, and so did Ed as well. Ed had him, as one of his big strikers there. And yeah, he's a big target man, 6'4", I believe. He might even be taller than that, but around that height. And they do play with two strikers up top, him and Carlton Morris. But the player that I've gone for, and I think he will have a good season. Yes, there's a little bit of bias as he's a Jamaican and a Jamaican international, is Amari Bell. And I did watch him in the Gold Cup with the likes of Moss and Luke over and across the Pond Sports Talk. And I thought he was very impressive, Amari Bell. Someone who has that ability to go up and down, a very good 1v1 defender at the age of 28 as well, but quite experienced in his game, and someone that you'd expect to be make an instant impact for Luton, coming up against a lot of tough right wingers in the league. You know, your Sakas, your Salas, your Anthony's, potentially Elise when he's back fit, and whoever he's playing for. I do think Amari Bell will be a big player for them. And I think he'll come out quite respectably. And my prediction for Amari Bell, and I didn't give my prediction for Check the Core as well. Sorry, I did 100 million. I reckon he'll be touted for around 100 million, whether anyone buys him or not. But yeah, Amari Bell, I think he'll remain in the Premier League. Even if Luton do go down, I think will still remain in the Premier League, make that move as a team who are in and around that relegations spot, might just try to keep him on as a backup left back potentially, or as a first choice. Amari Bell, I do think is a decent left back. Not to really scream and shout about, but I think he's decent right there. And the next team that I've gone for is Everton. How many teams? We haven't got too many more teams to look at now. We have 3 more teams, guys. So make sure you smash that like button. I really do appreciate you for being here in the stream. We're an hour and 20 in. But for Everton, there's a couple of players that I've gone for as an honourable mention. Big shout out to Calvert-Lewin. I think he'll have a big season, and I think he'll do really well as long as it's injury free, of course, under Sean Dyche. He's a perfect Sean Dyche type of striker. I think he'll get a lot more respect this season, just as long as he stays injury free. But I wasn't brave enough to put him in there as the player, just because of those injury issues that he has suffered with. But the player I've gone for is James Garner. So last year, if you go back 12 months, when Manchester United did sell him, they were quite disappointed to lose a player like James Garner, and they thought maybe Eric Ten Hag would want to keep him and potentially use him, but Eric Ten Hag decided not to, made that move to Everton, didn't play a lot of games up until the end of the season, where Sean Dyche started to use him a little bit more. But what I saw from James Garner for the Euros, England under 21s, playing at right back is a position I didn't really think he would play in a lot. He's someone that can play in a 6 more. When I say in a 6, more in a double pivot again, not as a lone 6. It's very hard to be a lone 6 in the Premier League. But yeah, someone who can do that as a 6-8 midfielder. Good composure on that ball. You can see where he's played at Manchester United, where there's been that quality around him. But someone who's got the tenacity, the energy to play in the Premier League, and had a good time at Nottingham Forest season before last. For them, but having that ability to play at right back, I think it'll be key, as Sean Dyche does like to play with that 4-4-2, which has a lot of reliance on his midfielders. I think now, if he does have a striker with an Arnott Danjuma to work off of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you'll see a lot more responsibility. And I think James Garner, and this is what I'm going to say is my prediction, James Garner will be the centre midfielder partner for... It's hard to really say. Is it going to be Decore? Is it going to be Onana? Is it going to be Gay? But I think he steps in ahead of one of those midfielders at least and takes a starting spot, James Garner, for Sean Dyche. I think he'll be his like Jack Cork type player, someone in the middle that will have a big season. And my prediction for James Garner, not necessarily for the upcoming next season, but I think he'll grab an England cap under his belt in his career. So good, decent player, James Garner. But yeah, I think he'll get an England cap. And that's not really a huge shout, because there's a lot of players that play the qualifiers and that for England. But yeah, I think he'll be a good player for Everton, and one of the fans' favourites for the Toffees. The next team is also in Merseyside, and it is Liverpool. Few honourable mentions. Ben Doak, what a pre-season he's had. A lot of Liverpool fans have been seriously impressed with him. His direct pace, his direct running, has the ability to go left and right. Told you, there's not a lot of wingers that can do that. Very quick, nimble-footed, brave, fearless winger in Ben Doak, the Scotsman. I think he's going to be. I think he'll stay around Liverpool and be a part of the squad, especially in the early stages of the Europa League. But the reason why I haven't gone with him, there's other honourable mentions like a Stefan Bajcetic. I didn't want to put him up there as a breakthrough player because once again, I'm not sure if he's going to play too many minutes for the first team for Liverpool. If they do sign a defensive midfielder in either a Lavia, that's the one they've been linked with the most, or anyone else, I think it's going to be a struggle for him. But Moss has put him in there. Stefan Bajcetic, good midfielder, came in and before that injury was a real promising player. And the person that I've picked is actually older than Stefan Bajcetic and has played more games than him as well, so you might be surprised in my reasoning there. But I think it's going to be Curtis Jones. And the reason why I think it will be Curtis Jones is because I think he'll have a much bigger role in this Liverpool team than most of us will think. You know, when you look at Liverpool, you think of their midfield. McAllister, Szoboszlai, potentially Gakpo as an 8. But yeah, I think Curtis Jones will play a lot deeper in midfield. I've got the DM as like his third position in there, but I think he'll play a lot deeper and have that similar role to what we saw him play for England in the Euros. And I think that's been a real key factor with him. Someone towards the end of the season, Klopp trusted a little bit more in that game against Leicester. He went and scored 2 goals. Curtis Jones will have a big season for Liverpool in my prediction. And what I'm going to say for him is that for a midfielder that I thought he was very good against Arsenal as well. Someone who can dribble and drive with the ball, progress it through the lines as a comfortable playing out on the left. The press has that sort of like press resistance. Once again, I've made a comparison with a player earlier on. Someone like a Mateo Kovacic can play from deeper positions and carry the ball forward, and also has a goal-scoring threat, has a real good shot on him, which Kovacic doesn't really have. Yeah, so I think Moss has said it here, like an ESR, someone in that sense, yeah, and someone you know what I'd say, Moss, someone I trust in in defensive positions more than an ESR is Curtis Jones. My prediction for him is, I think Curtis Jones will be on the plane for the Euros. Big shout, but if you have a look at that England midfield, there isn't really a lot of players in that real 8 position that we have there. We have a Bellingham, we have a Rice, Calvin Phillips. Is he going to get enough game time? He plays more of an 8 for England. I think Curtis Jones is going to the Euros. I think he'll have that good of a season. He'll make that trip and go to the Euros. Big shout right there. I know once again, but I think Curtis Jones will have such a good season for Liverpool, whether it's in the Europa League, he'll play him a lot of his minutes, or in the Premier League, where he will get a call up for England and be on that plane for the Euros. Big shout. Remember it once again, people. And my final team, the final player that I've got in here is Fulham. And I will be honest, it was another team that I did struggle to pick a player for. So I don't really have many honorable mentions, but I'm going to go straight into the one player to watch. And that is Harry Wilson. He is age 26 now. He's been around the block. He's had a lot of loan moves. And the previous club that we mentioned, Liverpool, he was there. And that's where he kind of made his, not really made his name, but was out on loan a lot to the likes of Derby. But he is at Fulham. Wasn't great for Fulham last season. And Fulham had a very fantastic season. But I think he's looked really impressive in this preseason. Scored a wonderful goal. Was it against Brentford? Yeah, he scored an excellent goal with that left foot. Harry Wilson. I think he's a player that can really perform well and be a key player in terms of goal getting. If Mitrovic leaves, I think Alexander Mitrovic will leave. That's a prediction. His future is very much in doubt. He's going to dovetail well with Raul Jimenez, a striker that likes to play off of someone who's going to be close with him. Harry Wilson can almost be not really stylistically like him, but will play close enough to Jimenez to kind of be like his Diogo Jota at Wolves. I think Harry Wilson will have a big season right there for Fulham if they are going to stay up, because a lot of people predict them to be within that relegation fight. Harry Wilson's going to be a key part of them there. We see Red Devil Yannick saying Robinson is going to be a big player for them. Yeah, interesting. We're interested indeed. I do like Anthony Robinson. Bit inconsistent for me, though. I don't think he's quite consistent enough to really have a big breakthrough. And yeah, I don't really have much of a prediction on Harry Wilson. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, my prediction for Harry Wilson in terms of output is he will get more than 10 goals and assists. Not double figures. I'm saying combined. He will get 5 goals, 5 assists, or six assists from 4 goals. I do think he'll have that. And yeah, he'll have a respectable season. So yeah, might not be a bad shout for your FPL people if you want to get a cheaper option in there in Harry Wilson. I think his role will increase as well. So that is that, guys. Those are my ones to watch. We've done it for 90 minutes, an hour and a half. Please smash that like button if you haven't done so already. I would love to get through to some of your comments now and the people that you've gone with. I'm going to just scroll all the way to the top. There's been plenty of you, and I really do appreciate you all for sticking through this right now. I really do. You guys have been amazing. Those of you that hung around, and make sure you smash that like button if you haven't done so already. I might go from bottom to top. Makes more sense to do so. If we get more comments, I'll just scroll down. Let me know your thoughts on players who you would say want to watch as well. If you are watching afterwards, if you are watching afterwards, please let me know in the comments. And yes, I've also got an announcement to make. Thank you, Rich, for reminding me. Couple things before we get in the comments. Thursday night will be the return of the preview show. Tomorrow, I'll be doing my predictions for the Premier League from 20th to 1st. But on to Thursday, back to Thursday night. The Premier League preview show will return, where we all give our weekly predictions. The first game week, we'll do Burnley versus Man City, not Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest. But on that show, after that show, not on that show, after that show, I'll be accompanied by my brother, Rich, because your boy is doing the one chip challenge. Ed beat me last year, and so I deserve a forfeit. And because we didn't get to complete the Predictions League last year, I'm doing the biggest forfeit of them all. And that is the one chip challenge. And I asked Rich to accompany me today for this, because I'm going to need someone who's got the experience of handling that one chip. If you don't know what that one chip is, guys, and if you want to see what I've done with that one chip, let me get this here for you. If you've never come across it, you will come across it on Thursday. It is the hottest chip in the world, Carolina Reaper. I did initially buy this. Yeah, I did. This is the dried Carolina Reaper pepper. I did initially buy that, but I thought I want to up the levels. I want to up the scales a little bit. That's it. Moss says Tereak needs double penalized, and I am. I'm doing it. I'm putting myself through that pain after the preview show on Thursday. So there'll be 2 streams on Thursday night. We'll have the preview show, and then straight after that, the one chip challenge. I'm gonna get it here for you. I'm sorry. Oh man. Let me just save this here. It's in my photos. Oh, let me share it with you. I'm gonna share this with you right now, my people. Yeah. I'm gonna share my screen. Let me just present this screen right here. Makes sense to do it this way. If you want to know what it looks like, and I've got the picture right here. It is ordered. It is ordered, and it's on its way. It's coming tomorrow. This is my fault. I wasn't able to complete the predictions league. I'm sorry for that. And this is my way of saying sorry. Not finishing prediction league and draft and Super Brew. Exactly. Where's Bird? I couldn't do it. So you are a hero now, Mr. T. Rich is with you for the chip screamer. Yep, Rich has done that. He has indeed. This is the 2022 one. This is the latest one. Chip with Carolina Reapers on top. Oh, double it down. Double it down. Shall I double it down? Guys in the chat, shall I double it down? Do you know what the Scoville units? It's 2 million Scoville units in this. And let me tell you the Scoville units of a jalapeno pepper. The average jalapeno pepper has 4,000 Scoville units. So this one has 2 million. This and the chip has 2 million. Oh, look at that. Double it down, says Shearer. Oh, my days. It looks disgusting, says Red Devil Yannick. It does. It's black. The chip itself is black. It is. I'm going to try and find a photo of this for you as well. You know what? Whilst I'm at it, let me do that. Let me find a photo for you of the one chip challenge. It is a black chip and it's disgusting. Rich experienced it. I recommend you, if you want to see some pain, go check out Rich's one chip challenge from last year. That will really show it for you. And he was in pain. He was crying and everything. This is someone who can hack spice. Wesbird says, make sure you've got a glass of milk ready. Wesbird, part of the challenge is you can't have milk. You can't drink anything once you've swallowed the chip for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And I'm going to have Rich there with me. I'm going to have a timer. I'm going to have an accountability partner to watch me eat it. And yeah, and just be there to talk with you guys as I go through pain with you here live. Thursday night. You don't want to miss it. 9 o'clock Thursday night. Rich is doing a stream at 7:30. Crystal Palace preview. So go check that out. Eagle Eye Football. And at 8 o'clock, I'll be doing the preview show. Lasts around about an hour. And we'll go through the predictions. And you guys leave your predictions in the comments. I will be managing that this year. And yeah, then at 9 o'clock after that stream, it will be set up already by then. Is the one chip challenge. Here it is. Here's the photo that I've got. Let me just share my screen with you here. Where is it? There it is. This is the chip. It is a black chip. Look at that. Oh my word. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to it. Double down, says Shearer. Shearer just wants to see me in pain. Yeah, double it down. Definitely 100, but you are but you are mad, Mr. T. Get in me belly, says. You know the rest, guys. Can't have milk after you eat for a minute as well. 5 minutes, man. 5 minutes. You're saying that's harsh. Oh, I've gone all of it. There it is. Go check it out, people. Big up Rich. Yeah. After this stream, go check this out. Put it in your saved. If you want to see the pain that Rich went through on there. I've put it as the pinned one in the chat. The pain that Rich went through. Yeah. Look at them in the comments. You guys, look at that. It is disgusting. But I will be there for it. Make sure you tune in as well. But guys, I am going to wrap this up here just because in the timing of it all. But I want to hear your one to watch in the comments. Please get in there. I'd love to hear it. I'll be interacting with you in the comments at the end of the stream or whenever you're watching it. If you're watching it afterwards, but please do hit that like button. We've got plenty of content coming tomorrow. Predictions League. Thursday, Premier League preview show is back alongside that one chip challenge. Friday, we'll be doing a watch along as long as I'm alive after eating that one chip for the Burnley versus Manchester City game. Saturday, across the pond sports talk, we'll be doing a watch along for the Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest game. Go check them out over there. Go check out the brothers Moss and Luke on the channel there. I think Bobby will also be doing it. So big up my bro Bobby as well. Go check that out. But on here, I'll be bringing you a match reaction at 3 o'clock during those games where they'll also be doing a well, across the Pond Sports Talk, we're doing a goal rush, but you can check that out after I've done the thingy over here, the match reaction. It'll only be short, and then in the evening, I'll be doing a watch along for Newcastle United versus Aston Villa. Sunday, we'll be bringing you a double watch along of Brentford versus Tottenham and Chelsea versus Liverpool, and any other breaking news your boy will be here to discuss. I know there was breaking news today about David Raya, but I kind of already spoke about that a bit last week. So yes, people, love to you all. I will be loving and leaving you. Big up yourselves as well. I had to try and continue. Yeah, you see, I've kind of learned off your mistake. I was watching that, and you did a match preview during that. You did the one chip and then a match preview. I thought, no way, not the first one of the year. I'll be mad to do that. But yes, people, love and leave you. Take care, and I will catch you soon. Stay tuned to Tereak Talks, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your night. Take care.